recording. So in the handouts, we're on, like I said, the third page from the end. The second paragraph down starts Amar of Gidol Amar Rav. So just to recap us, we're going through a sampling of Gemarot about the Yemos HaMashiach, and what I did was just take 3 daf from Sanhedrin. I think it was like 97 through 99, because it's basically just completely about the Yemos HaMashiach. And what we've seen so far, in my estimation, is not rainbows and unicorns, right? It's the generation is going to be, very rebellious or like a dog, or not things that are necessarily super exciting for people to look forward to. And I think we're going to see more of the same as we wrap this up. Amar of Gidol Amar Rav. Rav Gidol says in the name of Rav, Asidin Yisrael de'achli shnei Mashiach. In the future, the Jewish people will, the way this is phrased is they'll eat the years of Mashiach. It means they'll have the opportunity to enjoy the years of Mashiach coming. So that sounds like a pretty positive, but also kind of obvious. So Amar of Yosef, Pshita, you're just telling me that the Jews get to enjoy the Yemos HaMashiach? V'elaman ochel, who's going to enjoy the Yemos HaMashiach if not the Jews? I love the options that he suggests over here. Who's v'ela man achel? Who's going to enjoy it? An machal lahu chilik ubilik. You're going to tell me like Ren and Stimpy? Like these are just made up names. Chilik and Bilik are the ones that are going to enjoy it, not the Jews. No. So says the Gemara la'afuke midu Rebbi Hillel. So the reason for this statement of Rav Gidol, welcome. There's handouts over there. We're 3 pages from the end, second paragraph. So Rav Gidol makes the statement that sounds obvious that the Jews are going to enjoy the Yemos HaMashiach, and we said, well, who else would enjoy it if not the Jews? It's not going to be Chilik and Bilik. No, the reason for Rav Gidol's statement is to preclude you from thinking that we hold like this Rebbi Hillel. So Rebbi Hillel is not the...
Chilik and Bilik supposed to be non-Jews? Are they supposed to be Jews? What are they...
I think it's almost just like made up names. Like
just... Are they supposed to be Jewish names?
Oh, no, I don't know. I don't think it's Jewish names. I don't know. It's a good question. But the purpose of the statement is to preclude you from thinking that we hold like Rebbi Hillel. Rebbi Hillel is not the Tana Hillel of Beis Hillel fame. It is an Amora Rebbi Hillel, and he makes a very controversial statement. Amar ein Mashiach liYisrael. So he says, Rebbi Hillel says, there is no Mashiach for the Jewish people. Why? Shekvar achlu b'mei Chizkiah. Because in the times of Chizkiyahu HaMelech, it was such a positive experience for the Jewish people that they used up all the Mashiach time over there and don't expect Mashiach. Now, there's really 2 ways to read this. Way number 1 is Mashiach's not coming, period. That's one option. The less controversial way to read that is Mashiach, the human being, is not coming because that role was fulfilled by Chizkiyahu, but there will still be a Yemos HaMashiach. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will do it versus an actual person being involved. Amar Rav, Lo Avrei Alma El David. Ushmul Amar LaMoshe and Rabbi Yochanan Amar LaMashiach. This is just sort of an appended statement. The whole reason for the world being created was either for David, according to Rav, for Moshe according to Shmuel, or for Mashiach according to Rabbi Yochanan. Ma Shmo. So now that we have...
So if Hillel is the opinion and he came already and he left.
That the person of Mashiach has already... Come and gone, sure. So now the Gemara wants to know, when Mashiach shows up, what...
So if Hillel is saying that we are currently living in the post-Mashiach world.
So I don't think he would... That's an interesting question, and it sounds a little Christological to me. I wouldn't say that we're living in the Yemos HaMashiach. It certainly, the other prophecies have not come to pass. I think what he's saying is the merit that the Jewish people would experience in the Yemos HaMashiach, we've already expunged it. There's no... The Yemos HaMashiach that we will anticipate will not have the Mashiach character because he's already done his
come
day.
And gone.
Yeah, he's come and gone.
He's come and gone.
But his time has not come and gone.
But he's come and gone. The
Correct.
Mashiach has come
Correct.
and gone. So we have lived. So according to
Hillel
Hillel,
himself. Yeah.
We are living in a post-Mashiach world.
We're living in not a post-messianic age. We're not living in the messianic age. We're living in a post the Mashiach as an individual, but we're still anticipating a messianic age. It will just be a messianic time that comes through the act of God as opposed to the act of a human.
Now, since you have brought that up, since you brought up the topic, is that then a more Christian idea, and where is he getting it from?
So that's a very good question, and I don't think I have a good answer for how does Rebbi Hillel know that we shouldn't be anticipating a Mashiach? It sounds like this is all either.
But no, more than that, we shouldn't be. Not that we shouldn't expect the Mashiach. Mashiach has come.
We shouldn't expect in the future Mashiach to come because Mashiach has come in the past.
Mashiach has come, and for whatever the reason, Mashiach has come and died.
Right, and therefore don't expect him to come again.
Right. So I'd say it's anti-Christian.
No,
I'd say
why?
no because it's from what you're saying. The Christians want to say he died and then he's coming back and like
right to fulfill whatever he didn't fulfill.
Whatever he didn't fulfill. That's not found anywhere. It's just like
Hillel is saying that he's come and died, and
he's gone,
and the messianic time is coming in the future.
No, he says don't hope for it.
Don't hope for a Mashiach.
But the messianic
their whole thing is that he's coming back.
But he's not coming. He's not saying he's coming back. He's saying we're going to have.
What David
Mason. We're going to have all the other things that we're unity.
What I think you're saying is the difference between the Christian approach and Rebbi Hillel's approach is very minimal.
Correct.
Either Mashiach, the person, is coming back or not coming back, but both agree that Mashiach came, went, right, and there's still going to be a Yemos HaMashiach.
Correct.
And not only that, it's also anti-Christian because look at the second part of the phrase. The Christians want to say that Yashka was Mashiach and he died. This said Chizkiah was Mashiach and
hundreds of years before.
This is hundreds of years before. Guess what? You Christians, you missed the boat by like a couple hundred years.
Right. Don't worry, we're gonna come back.
Aren't even close.
I know we're harping on Rebbi Hillel as we should. We're gonna come back to him because the Gemara comes back to him. We're gonna see that he's maybe beyond the pale. For the next paragraph, so we're 3 pages from the end, the third paragraph down, Mashemo. I'm not even gonna point this out. I want you guys to tell me what the pattern is in this paragraph. Mashemo, what's the name of Mashiach when he shows up? What's his screen name? Debei Rebbi Shila Amri, from the yeshiva of Rebbi Shila, they say the name of Mashiach is going to be Shila Shema. Shneimar, and they quote a pasuk Agi Yavo Shilo. Now the next yeshiva has their interpretation as to what the name of Mashiach will be. Debei Rebbi Yanai Amri Yanun Shemo. From the yeshiva of Rebbi Yanai, they say the Mashiach's name will be Yanun, and they quote their pasuk Yehi Shmo Leolam Lifnei Shemesh Yanun Shemo. Debei Rebbi Chanina Amar. From the yeshiva of Rebbi Chanina, they say that Mashiach's name will be Chanina Shemo, Shneimar, and they bring their pasuk Asher Lo Aten Lechem Chanina V'yesh Omrim, and there's another opinion, Menachem ben Chizkiah Shemo, that his name will not be Chanina, it will be Menachem. What's the pattern?
Coincidence, a very big coincidence here. They all the Shivas and the God and the Mashiach have the same name.
Irving's yeshiva. What's that?
What about Irving's yeshiva? What they
Irvington yeshiva, and his name will be Irving.
Right. So
that's the Prager's yeshiva.
There you go. I've seen actually later commentaries, including the Vilna Gaon talks about Eliyahu will be his name. I think the idea here is less literal, like this is the name that we expect, but that from each yeshiva's perspective, they're talking about the Mashiach is going to be like one of us. He's gonna be from our school, from the name that our school is under. Or his name will be Menachem ben Chizkiah Shemo Shneimar Ki Rachak Mimeni Menachem Meishiv Nashiv Rabbanan Amri, and the Rabbanan have a different interpretation that it's Chavira Debei Rebbi Shemo. His name is going to be like the lepers of the house of Rebbi, meaning his name will be Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, who takes care of people who are ill and leprous in his house. Shneimar Achin Chal Yenu Hu Naso Machovenu Savlam V'Anachnu Chashavnuhu Noga Muka Elohim Umuneh. So this comes from the famous suffering servant in Yeshayahu 53. Indeed, our illness did he bear, and our pains he endured. Yet we did esteem him injured, stricken by God, and afflicted. Okay, Amar Rav Nachman Imin chayahu. Okay, so this is another very controversial topic, and we'll touch on this more when we discuss the Lubavitch movement in the late 20th century. But Amar Rabbi Nachman, Imin chayahu kigon ana. Rabbi Nachman says, if Mashiach comes from the living, it's going to be someone like me. Shenemar, and I can bring you a pasuk as proof. Hayadiro mimeno umoshlo mikirbo yatza. Amar Rav. Im min chayahu, if he comes from someone who is alive, kigon Rabbeinu Hakadosh. It's going to be someone like Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi. In min meisayahu, if he comes from the dead, kigon Daniel ish chamudot, then it's going to be someone like Daniel, the beloved man. And we talked about this a little bit when we were doing the Daniel shiur, but I'm going to have a little bit more to say about this at the end of this week's shiur as well. There's two ways that we can read this. What are the two ways that we can read this?
Is Moshiach actually dead, or is he like somebody who's already dead?
Right. Either we're saying literally he's either going to come from the living and it'll be like Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi,
or he's going to be like a dude that we know about from Tanakh.
Right. Like someone who has died, but it will not be an actual dead person. Right? Okay. Very good. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav, Asid HaKadosh Baruch Hu lahamid lahem David acher. Just like we had one David, we're going to get another one. Shenemar va'avdu es Hashem Elohehem v'es David malkam asher akim lahem. It doesn't say hakim lahem that he has established a David for you in the past, but I will establish for you in the future. So expect another David-like character in the Moshe Mashiach. Amar le Rav Papa labai b'haksiv v'David abdi nasi lahem le'olam. Kigon Kesar upalge Kesar. So he asked. So Rav Papa said to Abaye, doesn't it say that my servant David will be a prince forever? And he answers like an emperor and a viceroy, meaning yes, David will be part of Tchias Amesim, and he will serve as like second in command. He'll still have some level of princeliness, but he won't be the top dog. Darish that will be Mashiach, correct. Darish Reb Simloi. My dichsiv, what does the meaning of the pasuk that says Habu Hamis Avimis Yom Hashem Lama Zelachem Yom Hashem Hu Choshech V'lo Or. You might recall this when we were going through the psukim about Mashiach. The pasuk in Amos says, "Why are you so excited for the Amos Mashiach? It's going to be darkness and not light." Mashal Latarnagol V'Atlaf. This is a parable of a turkey. A rooster and a bat. Shahayu mitzafin leor. They're both super excited for morning to come. It's night, and they can't wait for morning to come. Amar le'tarnagol latlaf. So the rooster says to the bat, "Ani mitzafin leor shalihi." The reason I'm excited for morning time is because that's when I get to crow. Right? That's my time to shine. V'ata lama lecha ora. But you're a bat. Like your activity is at the night. Why are you so excited for it to be morning? So this mashal of the two animals is going to play out in an actual conversation between a heretic, we'll say, and Rebbe Avo. That the heretic says to him, when is Mashiach coming, according to you? Amar Le, so Rebbe Avo says to him, when darkness will surround all the people that are like you. So when you guys are in darkness, that's when I'm expecting Mashiach to come. Amrle, milai kalayitli. Are you mocking me? Amrle, kruxiv. I'm not mocking you. I'm quoting a pasuk to you because it says ki hinei achoshech yichase arts va'rafel leumim va'alecha yizrach Hashem v'kvodo alecha yireh. That everyone else is basically going to be in darkness. There's going to be fog among all the people, but Hashem is going to shine light on you, the Jewish people, alone. Tana Rebbe Lozer Omer. Yemos Mashiach is Arba'im Shana. The period of Mashiach is going to be 40 years, and he has his pasuk Arba'im Shana Kubador. And Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah Omer that it's more than 40, it's 70 years. Shenemar v'haya b'yomahu v'nishkachach tzur shiv'im shana. You're going to forget the trouble of 70 years. Kimei melech echad. Ezu melech hamiyuchad haba omer zeh Mashiach. What period of kingship must it be talking about? Must be talking about the king, meaning Mashiach. Rebbi Omer Shlosha Doros. Rebbi has an even longer period. It's 3 generations. Yiraucha im shemesh v'lifnei yareach dor dorim, and that's generation plus plural generations. So together you get 3 generations. And now we're back to our Rebbi Hillel. Rebbi Hillel Omer ein lahem Mashiach liyisrael shekvar achluhu b'mei Chizkiah. The Jews are not expecting a Mashiach. Why are you guys arguing about how long the period of Mashiach is going to be? It's not going to be a guy. It's just going to be a time. So Rabbi Yosef responds to this as the way I think all of us wanted to do. Sharile Mari la Rabbi Hillel. God protect poor Rabbi Hillel, who is completely out of the question. His statement is beyond the pale. Chizkiah Amos have it. When was Chizkiah? He was in Bayis Rishon, like we mentioned before. V'ilu Zechariah kamis navli b'Bayis Sheni, and we have prophecy from Zechariah in the second temple. V'yamar Gilimio bas Tzion Hari bas Yushalayim hine malchech yavolach tzadik v'nosahu ani v'rochev al chamor v'al ir ben ha'osnos. So we have a prophecy from Zechariah in the second Beis HaMikdash who's talking about Mashiach coming riding on a donkey, right? So how can you, Rabbi Hillel, tell me that Mashiach came in the first Beis HaMikdash when I have a Navi who's telling me to expect him, a physical person riding on a donkey, who that whole prophecy took place in the second Beis HaMikdash. So therefore, we don't consider Rabbi Hillel's statement to be authoritative.
He doesn't consider the Hillel statement to be
I would say the Gemara doesn't. There's no refutation of the question on Rabbi Hillel.
Yeah, but this is all Agadic Gemara, so therefore
fair,
you're not expecting.
I'm not talking about a psak, but it's not a. I don't have an answer to that approach. Meaning we don't.
Many
the
times
Gemara
we
doesn't.
don't. Many times
Fair,
we don't
fair,
have quite
fair. That's
answers
true.
on that. So
That's true. It's true.
It's just a different approach.
I hear you.
More than a different approach. It's a challenge.
It's a challenge. But what he's saying is sometimes in Agadata, sometimes in Agadata you don't get an answer to these types of things. I think it's still fair to say that Rebbe Hillel's approach is beyond the pale because it doesn't accord with.
All of these are beyond the pale.
This one has a challenge.
Well,
that's clear.
Well, all of them have challenges.
There's a Navi after that says later.
Yeah.
Again, it's Agadic. By
The
definition,
Nevuah, though.
by definition, the Agadic.
They're all right at a Agadic statement, but this is a Nevuah that's been referred to.
Okay, but again, all the statements are being presented in an Agadic form.
Okay,
and Agadic forms are not supposed to be taken on face value.
But a Nevuah is. The Navi is.
Yeah, but not in an Agadic statement.
It is what it is.
In other words, forget about the Agadic statement. If I was to ask you just from your own logical deduction, should we be expecting a Mashiach or not? Would you say we can rely on Rebbe Hillel's statement, or would you say no? The basic.
I would say all of this is Agadic and has to be examined, taken not at face value.
Throw away all the Agadita. Let's say there was no Gemara, and I was to ask you from the Psukim alone.
Okay.
Should you be expecting a Mashiach?
Yes.
Right, based at least on Zechariah,
Correct.
You could say.
Correct.
I think that's all we're trying to say.
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna skip a little bit of this because it's just arguments on how long the Moshe Mashiach is going to be. 30 years. We had 40 years. We had 3 generations. We get up to 365 years in the third statement down.
400 years.
We get 400 years. 365 is because we get 1 day of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is like 365 years. Let's see. Oh, this is really the end. We'll just do the last paragraph. Amar Reb Chia ben Abba Amar Reb Yochanan.
You have a whole generation of just Moshe Mashiach.
Right. Well, or more. We have 365 is one opinion. 400 years. There was one, I think, in the ones that I skipped that it's 7,000 years.
Yes.
Maybe we should do that.
2 weeks. Yeah, we did it a couple weeks ago. We had it 6,000.
Right. Well, okay. So let's do the second to last paragraph. Tani Avimi Berei de Rabbi Avo Yemos HaMashiach LiYisrael Shivas Alofim Shana. It's 7,000 years. Shenemar Umesos Chasan Al Kala Ken Yasis Alecha Hashem Elokecha. So just like the rejoicing of a Chasan and Kala, which is 7 days, so the rejoicing of a Kadosh Baruch Hu with the Jewish people is also going to be 7 God days, which is each day for a Kadosh Baruch Hu is 365. Is 1,000 years. So that's how you get to 7,000 years. Amar Rav Yehuda. There's a pasuk that says that 1,000 years in your eyes is like 1 day. Amar Rav Yehuda. Amar Shmuel. Yemos HaMashiach. Yeah, pretty straightforward, right? Yemos HaMashiach kimi yom shenibra ha'olam. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, whatever the Mashiach period is going to be the equivalent to the non-Mashiach period. So whatever you've had up until Mashiach comes, you'll get that much in the Yemos HaMashiach. So you're not. These are all really to come and contrast with the 6,000 years that we are familiar with. That the world will be 2,000 years of Tohu, 2,000 years of Torah, and 2,000 years of Mashiach, and we've already lost a whole bunch of years of Mashiach. These opinions are, no, the period of Mashiach is fixed. Whatever that number is going to be, it's going to be whether the world is 6,000 years, more than 6,000 years is irrelevant. You're not going to lose any of your Mashiach time, no matter how late it becomes. So Shmuel says, Yemos HaMashiach miyom shenivra ha'olam v'yad achshav, shnemer kimei hashamayim al aretz. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Amar Kimei Noach ad Achshav. It's like the time period from Noach up until his time frame. Shenemar Kimei Noach Zos Li Asher Nishbati. Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Kol hanavim kulan lo nisnavu el Yemos HaMashiach aval leolam haba ein lo ra'asa Elohim zu asecha. All of the Nevi'im prophesied about the Yemos HaMashiach, but olam haba, even the Nevi'im have no idea. There's been no eye that has seen such a thing. Upliga de Shmuel de Amar Shmuel ein bein olam hazel liyemos hamashiach elashiba malchus bivad. And this really takes us back to the very beginning when we were talking about the difference between Rambam and the Gaonim. That the approach of the Gaonim is more miracles, and the approach of Rambam is more rational. And he gets that rational approach from this last statement that there's not going to be any difference between the Yemos HaMashiach and our current time period, except we won't be under the dominion of a ruling body. Okay, I'd like to do a couple more statements from Chazal that you don't have in the packet in front of you. The first one being, well, you'll tell me if you've heard of any of these. There is an opinion. The reason that I'm mentioning these now is because they're going to become much more pertinent when we talk about, especially Shabtai Tzvi, but a lot of the messianic characters that we're going to meet after we finish going through the statements from Chazal are going to rely on these, we'll call them fringe statements, such as the fact that the mitzvos will be nullified in the time of Mashiach. And what's that? The Frankists, the Sabbateans. Okay, so there are a few statements in Chazal. There's one in the Gemara of Avodah Zarah and Vayikra Rabbah. I'm going to read you one from Nida Daf Samach Aleph on the base. Tanar Rabbanan Beged she'avad bo kilayim. So you have clothing that was made through kilayim, forbidden mixture. So harei zeh lo yimkarenu lo v'kochavim. Once you've made the thing out of kilayim, you can't even sell it. You can't sell it to v'kochavim. V'lo yasenu mardas l'chamor. You can't make it as like a throw for a donkey to sit on it, kind of as a not a saddle, but like a pillow almost. But you can take this kilayim clothing and put it on, use it as shrouds. So the Gemara wants to prove from there, Amar Rav Yosef Zos Omeres mitzvos betelos la'asid lavo, that the mitzvos will be nullified in the future because this person who's being buried in kilayim is going to get up at the time of Tchias HaMesim, and if he's allowed to get up wearing kilayim, you see from there that in the time of Tchias HaMesim, ostensibly, which is also Yemos HaMashiach, the mitzvos will be nullified because he won't have the lav of not wearing kilayim or shatnez. That is the Gemara's statement in Nida. There are, I guess we can, there are a couple of contrary statements to that. Certainly in the Mishnah Torah, there's a Yerushalmi Megillah. Let me just get Yerushalmi. 1 second.
Boy, they make Kalayim to last. What is it? They make Kalayim to last.
This is, when you deal with the chok, right?
Okay, this is Yerushalmi Megillah. What's that? Yerushalmi Megillah is 1:5. Rabbi Yochanan Rishon ben Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Hanavim v'Haksuvim Asidim Libatel. Rabbi Yochanan says that the books of Nach, Nevi'im and Ksuvim will in the future be batel. The Chamisha Sifrei Torah enim Asidim Libatel. But the Chumash itself will not be batel. My taima Why is that? What's the source for this? Because it says about the Torah that kol gadol v'lo yosef, that is a continuing voice that does not end. Rav Shimon ben Lakish Amar, Rish Lakish says, Af Megillas Esther v'halachos einan asidin li batel. So he doesn't disagree with Rabbi Yochanan that Nevi'im and Ksuvim will be batel, but he says that Megillas Esther we will still have, along with what he calls halachos, which the Rambam defines as the Torah Shebal Peh.
We define batel.
Yeah, right. So let's define batel. Okay, so that's the exact right question. What do we mean by batel? So I will give you.
I mean, the prophecies will have been fulfilled, so
I guess we won't learn it. That's
message received.
Oh no, it's not here on the daf. It's in the Rambam. Okay,
Maybe
so
it'll be like of historical importance, but not like relevant, practical. Hey,
no reason to study it.
so the Rambam in the Mishnah Torah, he brings us down la halacha in Megillah Parak Beis Halacha Yudches, as well as Yesodei HaTorah 9:1, and he says it very straightforward the way the Gemara says it, that it will be batel, meaning it will not have any standing. The Nosei Kalim, the commentaries on Rambam explain, the Ravid actually is the really who takes him to task and says absolutely not. It does not mean batel. It means batel for reading the Kriyas HaTorah, right? You're not going to have the Haftorah read aloud from the Nevi'im and Ksuvim anymore. You'll just read from the Torah. But there's no reason for the Nevi'im and Ksuvim to be batel. You can still learn from them in Yemos HaMashiach the same way you would from the Torah and the same way that you would today. But just so that you're aware of some of these, we'll call them fringe statements. There is another one that is certainly going to come into play when we talk about Shabsai Tzvi, which is the expectation that there will be some sort of new Torah in the Yemos HaMashiach. So this is a Medrash Rabbah, Vayikra Rabbah, 13.3. Keitzad heim nishchatim. So this is talking about one of the expectations of the Yemos HaMashiach is that there are these fantastical creatures, the Behemoth and the Leviathan. We had them when we were learning Eov, and they do battle in the times of Mashiach, and then each one ends up killing the other. And the Medrash talks about how the Behemoth has a horn and that pierces the Leviathan. Leviathan has some sort of serrated fin which cuts the Behemoth and shachs it, and that's how they both end up dying. What do you mean? You can't. That doesn't work. You can't use that lahalacha as a kosher shchita. V'lokach tanina hakol shochtim ubekol shochtim leolam shochtim chutz mimagal katzir v'hamagera v'hashinayim mipnei shehein chonkin. So there are certain things that you can't use for shchita because it's really considered tearing. Amar Rebbi Avin Bar Kahana Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu. No, Rebbi Avin wants to find a source that there's a new way to shech in the Yemos HaMashiach, and he finds it. Yeah, so the behemoth and the Leviathan get shechted or killed, and the Chachamim enjoy, right, they have, correct, and it's fish and meat. There's a whole Torah on all of this.
That's not related to, let's say,
the whole thing is we're going to have the feast of the Leviathan.
People feasting on the Leviathan.
No, that's the expectation is that it's an actual feast here in this world to have the Leviathan. So Amar Rebbi Avin Bar Kahana Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu. So there's a pasuk in Yeshaya that says Torah may itai teitze, that the Torah will come from me in the future. So the Medrash adds in words to that statement and reads it as follows: Torah chadasha me itai teitzi, that there's going to be a new Torah that comes from me. Chidish Torah me itai teitzi, that I will create new halachos. There's going to be new Torah in the Yemos HaMashiach, including new ways to shech and new other things. And you can see how that sort of leads to a slippery slope where someone who claims to be Mashiach can do things and say, well, this is the new Torah, right? I know that XYZ was forbidden, but now I'm telling you it's permitted because now there's a new Torah.
The shchit is going on not the Leviathan, right?
The shchit is going on the Behemoth, right? The Leviathan's fin shechs the Behemoth, but does it in a way that shouldn't be halachically kosher.
If the Leviathan is a kosher fish, it doesn't require shchita.
No. Right. The Leviathan is killing the Behemoth.
Right, but you said they're killing each other.
At the same time.
Right.
at the same time.
So that we get to eat the
I hope
Leviathan.
we have the fish before the meat.
Right, Leviathan for sure is kosher. Right, you have the fish first, and yeah, can you have there's all kinds of really like fun halachic questions that come from the. Can you eat something that was shechted by an animal? It has no das, right? If a monkey shechs something, is that a kosher shechita or not? Right.
Totally off topic. How strict is the fish with the meat halacha?
So my understanding is that's more for like medical reasons, for health reasons, than it is for halachic reasons.
Meaning you got a kiddush downstairs, it's crowded, you go for the herring, you got the same plate, there's a little piece of herring left over, you go for the cholent.
So the halacha is we're more careful with health things than we are even with like regular halachos. So so people are even more makbid on things like that. That's why you get like people who will have a shot of whiskey in between to kind of wash out their mouth and that whole deal.
It's not
Even though whiskey is not
drink
really
with
that
healthy.
healthy.
No, it's not like meat.
It's an
It's just like you take the same plate as your herring.
You have to ask your local rabbinical authority.
I don't need an excuse to drink, unfortunately.
Okay, so
Although my doctor says it's the 8th fib, I stay with my uncle.
Yeah.
So to the best of my knowledge, everyone who talks about I should refill the water. Everyone who talks about this idea of can Moshiach come from the dead or not, they all quote that Gemara that we read. I have not seen anyone talk about a parallel Yerushalmi, and this is, again, people have to learn Yerushalmi. That's all I'm going to say about that. But there's a parallel Yerushalmi which to me sounds much more straightforward, like we're expecting somebody who actually is coming from the dead, and I will read that Yerushalmi to you right now. It's a Yerushalmi Brachos, Parak Bet Halacha Daled, that says as follows: Rabbanan Amri, Ahain Malcha Mashiach, Imin Chayahu, David Shmei. So who is this Mashiach that we're expecting? If he's from the living, his name will be David. In Min Demei Chayahu, David Shmei. If he's from the dead, his name will also be David, meaning we're expecting either a David or the David who had passed away. Amr Tanchuma, Ana Amri, time of Osa Chesel Mshicho Le David. And I will give you a source for this as Reb Tanchuma, because the pasuk says Osa Chesed Limshicho Le David, so you can expect it to be a David, either a living David or the dead David who will come back and be the Mashiach. Okay, so the next time we meet, we'll start going through people who claim to actually be Mashiach. There's one more area. What I was trying to do is first cover our sources in Tanakh, then our sources in Chazal, and then get to the historical sources. One area that I want to just round off with is Piyut. So we have a lot of liturgy that includes discussion of Mashiach, just in everyday davening, Shmona Esrei, Yalav Yavo, Kaddish, right? It's everywhere in your davening. Interestingly, not so much in benching. Just because I'm saying Kaddish, I was interested in this. There's two versions of Kaddish, right? One has the Atzmach Borkanei V'Karev Mishichei, and the other does not. So Case Mishichei is a little more recent. Which is older? Which is older, the version of Kaddish with Yitzmach Borkanei V'Karev Mishichei, or the one without?
With.
The Mashiach version or the non-Mashiach version? You're saying with.
With.
You're saying with.
Guessing with.
Anybody has without? So, to the best of my knowledge from the research that I've done, it sounds like they are actually parallel traditions. Rambam in his Siddur and Rav Sadia Gaon in his Siddur include the words Yatzmach Borkanei V'Karev Mishichei. Yes. No, the correct answer is always it's a machlokes.
No,
That's what you get for picking a side. That's
I
what
don't
you get.
like that.
But in the Siddur of Rav Amram Gaon and the Machzor Vitri, which is from the school of Rashi, they do not include mention of Mashiach. We have
Kates.
So Kates is much later.
When's that come?
I don't know. Probably
10
like
years ago.
Yeah, like probably 20th century, maybe as early as the 20th century, or as late, I should say. I'm going to quote to you one obscure Piyut because people don't have a lot of exposure to this stuff. But the from, we'll say, like the 9th, 10th century, for, I don't know, 500 years, writing Jewish poetry was like the highest form of
Writing poetry was limited to Jewish.
Right. But well, it came because writing poetry was so highly regarded in the secular world that it flowed into the Jewish world. But we today don't have a lot of exposure to. We found a lot of this stuff in the Geniza.
Don't like it.
Yeah, also true. But I think it's important to have exposure to it. We're going to get a sample from a Meshulam da Piera, who apparently believed that Genghis Khan was going to bring back the 10 tribes. This is his poem about Moshiach, and we'll see how he regards poets in general. The faithful messenger will. I'm just going to read you the English because the Hebrew's
Terse.
it's beyond my ken.
It's much better in Mongolian.
Yeah, better in Mongolian. The faithful messenger will rise to the dwelling of Zion, and the sinners will be forgiven of their sins. There they will rise, expiring the guild of for their spells, because they betray the righteous of poetry. There, composers, musicians, and poets will possess the Mishkan, the Kodesh HaKodashim, with their songs. They will tirelessly eat and be satiated with the fruit of their odes, and they will not exert themselves as mortals do. So who's going to enjoy the most of Mashiach? The poets. We will go forward with those who know language and raise themselves with a beautiful armor. And in the dark and sad days of preparation for battle, when our enemies' horses gallop exultant, we will return to the crown of poetry its previous grandeur, and the poets will be crowned with their diadem's flower. The only other thing I want to note before we close is that we even to this day have references to Mashiach in poetry and tefillot that are recited. Despite Rav Kook's best efforts, there was no mention of Mashiach in Hatikva, but Shai Agnon was able to include it in the prayer for the Medina, which begins with Avinu Shebashamayim Tzur Yisrael v'Ga'alo Bareches Medinas Yisrael Reishis Tzmichas Kulasenu. So that phrase Reishis Tzmichas Kulasenu, we saw very similar phraseology in Navi when it's talking about Tzemach David, the sprouting of Mashiach and of the line of David. Just one.
Which is very controversial, and a lot of people don't say it.
Right. Okay. So
fights about it.
So that takes me to the last personal anecdote. So when I was growing up in Pittsburgh, the Rav of the shul was Rav Yisrael Miller. The shul that I davened in wanted to say the tefillah for the Medina. Rabbi Miller was a Lakewood trained, more yeshivish kind of guy. So it didn't necessarily rub him completely the right way to say this tefillah. So he altered it. And the way I'll read to you his altered version, which was as follows. Almost. Avinu Shebashamayim Tzur Yisrael v'Ga'alo Bareches Medinas Yisrael Shetehei Reishis Tzmichas Gulasenu. That was his compromise. Not that it is Reishis Tzmichas Gulasenu, but that it should be Reishis Tzmichas Gulasenu. And I recall very clearly an Israeli who sat like 5 rows in front of me. Every time he would get up to it, he would like emphasize the word Shetehei. Shetehei was like the line, just to make sure that everybody understood that we're making an adjustment. But it's there in the tefillos even to this day, that we have this either a hope or an assertion that the rebuilding of Eretz Yisrael is Reishis Tzmichas Gulasenu. Next week we will pick up Meretz Hashem with the claimants to Mashiach from the ancient period up until today.
Wow, you made it all the way through to the end of this year. Thank you. These series are a passion of mine, and a lot of effort goes into them. I'd be grateful for your help in spreading the awareness to others. If you're interested in joining us live, getting the notes, or asking a question, please message me on Twitter at Isaacson, ISAACSON. Thanks.